Hello there, my beautiful, lovely, talented, and delightful friends here on Trauma Talk. Thank you so much for joining me here today for another video on the topics of mental health. Today we are going to be discussing anger and the difficulty that I have experiencing and expressing that, and perhaps where I have been wrong in how I thought about anger, and maybe you have a thing or two to learn about anger too, like I do. With that being said, let us talk about my least favorite emotion, the one I like to keep locked away in a box, hoping that it will never emerge from my mind. As we dive into this today, three very important things. Number one, this is my co-host Sophie. She's a pretty sleepy co-host, but occasionally she'll pop in and say something. Number two, if you want to hit that subscribe button or that like button while you're here, it would help to support my channel, would be fantastic, and I'd also love to see your face back here. And number three, this video is supported by the generosity of my amazing patrons over on Patreon. The link is on screen and also in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. I would love to have you as a part of our community. I'd love to see you over there, but more about that at the end of this video. And now, on to one of my least favorite topics. I talk a lot about how important it is to feel emotions, to let ourselves feel things. Like, we're human beings, we have emotions for a reason. Stuffing them down tends to hurt us long term. In fact, I would argue almost always hurts us long term. Like, we need to feel things, it's part of the human experience. Okay, that's all good and well in theory, but when it comes to anger on a personal level, I'm like, well, maybe we can leave that one out of the narrative. Maybe I can just skip that one because I don't like it. To me, anger feels unsafe. To feel anger feels unsafe and uncomfortable, and it feels ineffective, and I cannot tell you how many times I've thought to myself, like, I'm not gonna get angry over this because what's the point? Like, I'm gonna get all worked up and I'm gonna feel things and it's not gonna accomplish anything, so why don't I stuff all that emotion down and instead use my time to come up with a productive way of trying to deal with this? And for the record, that absolutely has its uses and purposes, but when you do that for all forms of real anger in your life, for the things that are very deserving of anger, a very toxic pattern emerges. Like I said, for the past, 29 years of my life, I have done a pretty decent job at avoiding anger as a sustained emotion. Have I felt it in bits and pieces here and there? Yes, absolutely, but I have never let it stay long, and I've always made sure that whatever level it probably needs to be felt at, I've brought that down at least 10 points to a more manageable level where I can just dabble in anger for a second, then I'm good, then I'm peaceful again, then we're cool, and let's have a conversation. There are definitely some places in our society where anger is acceptable, but I don't think it's an emotion that we give people a lot of tools to deal with. Anger management generally consists of learning how not to be angry, when in reality, there are very legitimate reasons to be angry, and there are very real uses for feeling those things. In the formative years of my life, I did not see anger used in very effective ways. I saw people around me experiencing anger and what they chose to do with that anger, and it was incredibly damaging. And I got to sit and watch this process and go, okay, if you get angry, you hurt people, you ruin relationships, I'm not gonna get angry. And that was only compounded more when I found myself in a really abusive relationship where, again, anger is not a good or a safe thing. And so I fell even further on the spectrum of, I'm never gonna feel this, I'm never gonna let myself be a part of that emotion because I've seen it do bad things. And lastly, on kind of a more intellectual level, I've always felt like arguments that came from a place of anger were not effective. So when there are things that make me really angry, I've always tried to like clamp down that emotion, stop feeling angry, and then think about it with a clear head, because maybe I can come up with a better solution or a better argument or a better conversation. Though I cannot be 100% certain, I am fairly sure that I'm not the only person who feels this way. A lot of us have seen very poor examples of how anger leads to bad actions, especially those of us who have experienced trauma. And so when you see that, one of two things tends to happen. Either people get very, very understandably angry and that anger is amplified, or you fall on the side that I do, where I just shut it all off. When you have seen example after example after example of anger being portrayed as a negative emotion, as something that's damaging and detrimental, as something that leads to harm, it's really hard to view it as anything but bad. But over the past year and a half of working through this in my own mind and seeing if there's any way I could play with this emotion and how I felt about that, I've come to a place where I'm starting to actually be angry. And I say that with a bit of a smile on my face because that is a little bit of a victory, because here's the thing, as I like to say, I feel like I say here's the thing a lot, but here's the thing. Anger is one of the first emotions we know. If you spend time around babies or toddlers, they get angry and they let you know, they feel that anger. Being angry is a part of humanity. Being angry is not a useless emotion. It's not something whose only purpose is to be squashed down and defeated. Feeling angry over things that should make us angry, like harm or pain or injustice or mistreatment or whatever it might be, is entirely valid, and it's not a bad thing and it's not a weak thing. I think I kept such a tight lid on my anger for so many years because I was afraid of what I would do or what I would say if I started feeling angry. And like, I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to ruin relationships. So I'm not going to feel those things because those must be the inevitable outcomes of anger. But I came to learn slowly but surely that that does not need to be the case, because feeling something and acting on it are very different things. I can feel absolutely furious at someone, but not yell. I can be so upset and just want to tear into someone verbally and yet still treat them with respect. For a long time, I had a hard time distinguishing between the feeling of anger and the action of it. And coming to learn and understand that I can feel angry and not do anything that's gonna hurt myself or other people about it. I can be angry and I can sit in that and I can feel it, acknowledge it, give it space, and not do anything about it. Maybe I hit a pillow, maybe I cry, maybe I scream in my car, which is one of my favorite things to do when I'm really overwhelmed. I'll just go for a drive, I'll find somewhere quiet and I'll just yell in my car. It's very therapeutic if you ever wanna give it a shot. You look weird if other people see you, but I mean, it is what it is. I think perhaps I should have a more eloquent way of explaining this, but I'm gonna express it to you the same way it's been expressed to me. One question I kept coming back to my therapist with and continue to, and question myself and other people, is, but why? Why be angry? If there's nothing I can do about it, if I'm not gonna lash out of anger, why feel it? But then I realized that question can translate to literally anything. Why be sad about anything ever? Why be happy about anything ever? Why be angry about things? And the best answer that I have could probably be a lot better articulated by those who are more educated or poetic than I am. But why feel those things? We feel those things because we're human beings and because emotions are a part of who we are. We aren't robots. Part of what separates us from other beings, from robotic creatures, from computers, is that we feel things. And feeling things, I think, is a human superpower. It's one that I'm still learning in stages because I do still have a lot of difficulty allowing myself to feel whatever that emotion is, be it anger or grief or shame or rage. But allowing your body and your mind to feel what it needs to feel is a relief. This is something I'm very much in the process of learning about, but I can tell you that in the moments that I've been able to feel anger and I haven't judged myself for it, that I felt anger and I haven't shoved it down, I have felt better after. I have felt more free after. For those of us who are not comfortable or do not like anger, I think we get really good at rationalizing everything away. So if I didn't have a reason to feel angry, if I could put myself in the other person's shoes and understand where they were coming from, I would tell myself I had no reason to be upset, and so I'd squash that anger. But I've come to understand that even if I can empathize with someone or sympathize with them or understand where they're coming from or understand why they did what they did, that doesn't mean that I don't get to be angry about it. If someone hits you over the head with a baseball bat, it still hurts, regardless of the intention of where it was coming from, right? You're still allowed to feel that pain. You're still allowed to feel that anger, even if you understand the situation. There's a variety of people and situations in my life that I could probably be pretty angry over, that I have denied myself for many years. And over the past month and a half, a few situations arose in which I realized I could feel anger where I'd always stuffed it down before, but instead, I started to just let myself feel that. I didn't have to do anything about it or act upon it, and in this case I chose not to, but I just felt that anger. I stopped all the rationalization, I stopped all the self-blame and judgment, and just allowed myself to be mad, to just purely simply be mad. And I can tell you, I'm starting to feel better and more clear-headed about that situation. And that is something that is a huge step forward because I have not felt that way for years. In particular, there was one situation before the election. Now don't worry, we're not getting into any politics, I promise you. However, I had a political conversation with a friend of mine, and this is a person whose relationship I deeply value. But some of the things that they said made me so upset, more than upset, made me angry. And I thought about that, and I thought about the urge to shove it all down and not ever think about it or speak about it again. And instead, I decided to remain respectful in that conversation, preserve that relationship, said what I needed to say, but didn't say it, aggressively or out of anger. And then after the fact, I asked my husband if I could just sort of let everything out that I wanted to say, but say it to him instead of them. And I did that. and it felt fantastic. It was so freeing to say the things that I so wanted to say out of anger and just tear into someone, but I would never do that. But instead of judging myself for those things and shoving them further down, I found a healthier outlet to let them out, where I wasn't gonna hurt people or find myself out of control. It was a safe environment for me to start playing around with this new emotion, and it was okay. I didn't get hurt, no one else got hurt. I felt better, I felt freer. It was a positive experience. And so over the last few months, I've been playing around with more situations of letting myself feel angry instead of just rationalizing all the way. If you are someone who has related to any of this, if you've been scared of anger or angry at anger, though that's an oxymoron, or are really good at rationalizing your way out of it, know first and foremost that you are not alone and that those are understandable reactions when you've had negative experiences with anger, or you don't know what to do with it, or it feels too big for you. For what it's worth, if you've always thought of anger as this negative, bad emotion, I would encourage you to maybe consider reconsidering that. Consider the fact that we are born with emotions for a reason, and though I may not know the intricacies of that reason, I can tell you we are supposed to feel things, and it is healthy and good for us when we feel those things. Feelings do not equate to actions. Just because you feel a certain way does not mean you have to act upon it. And to me, that feels like a pretty powerful thing, because then I'm no longer controlling myself. I'm letting myself be what I need to be, but I'm still choosing what I do with my actions. And the anger journey will most definitely continue, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot more over the next upcoming years and months. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments down below. Do you feel and experience anger very quickly and easily? Do you find that you stuff it down like I have for years? Let me know in the comment section down below. As I always say, I do read every single comment that you guys post here on this channel, Trauma Talk. I do not have a chance to reply to every single one, but if you write something, I will read it, and I really appreciate it. A huge thank you to all my patrons over on Patreon who make this video possible, who make all of my videos on both Trauma Talk and Footless Joe possible. Thank you for being a part of my community. Patreon is a platform where you can support creators that you care about. So for instance, for $5 a month, you can get your name in the credits of every video, and also early access to some videos and some behind the scenes things and early announcements and cute puppy videos. So check it out if you're interested, link on screen and down below if you are able to. And to you watching this video right now, thank you so much for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today. You could be anywhere in the world doing anything, and you chose to spend a few minutes with me here, and I really appreciate that. I love you guys, I'm thinking about you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.